Hello, everybody, and welcome into the latest episode of the Expend to Draw podcast. I am, of course, joined by the Law YGO, of course, MBT Elestrals, Yu-Gi-Oh, or whatever channel he's using at the moment to thwart our viewer count, and, of course, the one and only best player in the game, Bean Soldier TV. Trish had to take a day off. We understand. World's competitors have things to do.
Man had to pay rent.
For real. So, in the meantime, we got the other best player. So, with that said, we have quite a bit to discuss today. We, of course, will be going over the newest limitations within the Elestrals card game, as well as the new banning. And, of course, we are going to talk about some new Shattered Stars stuff, the things that are legal as of today. Okay. I don't know when this is going up. All I know is when we're recording it.
We're filming this on September 11th, so...
Right. So it's a little bit wonky.
We do have to spoil the ban list that we all knew. It was an inside job. We all helped construct the ban list. If you're watching this, you've seen the Drataya ban. You've seen the Ambrosia ban. They banned Nectar of the Gods.
And every healing Elestral and everyone with the 5 printed on it as well.
Yep.
Oh, don't forget the fact that they announced that Astrabit will be the first Elestral you're allowed to play 4 copies of.
Yeah, he's
Sure.
taken over Tartarus.
So with that said, let's go ahead and get on into everything. Do we have any shout outs or anything like that we want to do before we get into this? Probably Elestronauts, not that they need one.
Yeah, guys.
And importantly, I think we also should be shouting out Wirtz. Big ups for my guy. Rest in power.
We have to have Wirtz on a watch right now. The man's going through a lot.
Can we
So
get a
true.
wellness check on Wirtz?
We're all thinking of you, my friend.
He's been posting really insane shit all day. He's been posting like, I'm gonna do it. I'm the only person who can. And I'm like, Wirtz, I don't know what your plan is, but I'm in.
He said he's going to do some heinous things to get himself into Tartarus to break Jataya out. So
He said, yeah, see you in a year. I'm gonna pull an Orpheus.
those were his exact words. That's actually not even a joke. He said that. You can put the Twitter post right here. He said it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't
So-
you worry. I'll make sure that everyone gets to see it.
So, of course, this is obviously the headliner. We're not going to beat around it. We do have a new updated Forbidden and Limited list. The list is effective as of October 1st, as well as a bunch of other things, including the Lunar Shattered Stars. We also have announcements of Shattered Stars month 10 that we'll cover, but
Month 9.
Month 9.
Not month 10, month 9.
that. Obviously, the headliner here is that it's not just a banned list, it's a forbidden and limited list. They've done the first ever limitings within the Elestrals card game. The banned card we're going to cover first, just to get it all out there. The banned is Drataya, and the limits are Lavalith, Resting on Your Laurels, and Earthquake, which at this point, I'm sure everyone watching this has seen that. Let's talk a little bit about Drataya specifically. Obviously, this card had to go, right?
On the day that we're recording, the Drataya ban actually was announced today. I'm a little bit miffed that it messed with our upload schedule, dropping literally 3.5 hours before we were set to upload the Fire FTK deck profile, to where I just had to hit publish immediately. Great timing there.
Funniest thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen. It was peak.
Yeah, at least
So-
you guys planned it. At least y'all planned your upload for the day.
Yeah.
So essentially what we're saying is, Dan, Wirtz, somebody on the team, dude, give us at least a day or 2 heads up. Come
Yeah,
on, man.
jeez, Louis. We could have pushed that upload to yesterday, gotten 8,000 views, and then it wouldn't have mattered. Oh my God, it's gone.
Yeah.
We're not playing for repeats here. You know, it's fine.
Oh no, I was advocating for its ban in the video. I'm fairly certain. I was advocating for some kind of a ban for that deck specifically. I do think Drataya is the correct hit for that deck. But regardless of which, let me at least get the not even ad revenue. We're not monetized yet.
Which
Yeah.
means share and subscribe, folks.
Like, subscribe, send a video to YouTube, and then open it in another tab, and then just let it play.
For legal reasons, that is a joke.
It's not a joke. Do it. I, as a member of Caster's Corner, advocate you breaking YouTube's terms of service. Drataya is interesting. It seems so weird to say that it had to go because it's so nothing in almost every single deck. But after they printed Ambrosia Cornucopia, it was like, oh, we're just going to get an Ambrosia every couple of sets. And there's going to be a day, either this year or next, in which Drataya is going to read Win the Game. And we just ended up a little earlier than I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to live a little longer, but he definitely was the problem.
I will say, while Drataya was absolutely the correct hit there, because even if they did say ban Waspire, there were other FTKs that you could perform with the same idea. One of them that I was even theorizing was the idea of doing basically the same line with an Ash Rabbit and then cycling with your 3 copies of Eruption and discard. While Drataya is the correct hit, and I do find it funny that we've hit this point so soon, their proposed fix to Drataya, if they are still looking at printing more copies of Ambrosia, I'm actually not sure if that's going to fix it.
Oh, I think that the proposed one that they posted is a very good fix to the card. The ones that they showed on the video for the ban of Drataya was like, discard a golden apple or an ambrosia to draw 2 cards, which would be a once per turn effect. That's not like an infinite thing.
Yeah, I guess that is
so like the issue with Drataya right now is that every single time that you cast an ambrosia, you draw 2. With a card that has an effect like that, you would only get a single draw 2 cards, and you aren't activating an ambrosia.
Yeah, my bad. I legitimately brain farted and forgot that is now a once per turn, if that is the case.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right.
I think that that's a fine solution. I think that that's a pretty good effect to put on the card.
I do wonder if we can't just let it be regular Drataya and just say this effect is once per turn.
I think that would have actually been fine too, because it would have then kept the same spirit.
Either way, there are simple erratas to this card, and like Yu-Gi-Oh, most things that need fixing get fixed by adding once per turn when it comes to old Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Yeah. I do have to wonder, it seems almost like Drataya is just the Elestrals version of Royal Magical Library. It's not ever been used for anything like healthy. I guess there's like the fruit deck. But,
I was gonna say, you're taking shots at Wirtz right there.
Okay, I played exclusively fruit for a month and a half, okay? I like the deck too, but Drataya specifically as a package has just not been healthy. I can't help but wonder, well, I do believe Drataya deserved to be hit, because even after the Spark It ban, there was an upload to the Notch channel showing that there was a 5-card hand rip that was legal with Spark It, and it also used Drataya as kind of the functional point of deep drawing the deck. Obviously, Drataya needed to go, but when it comes to the Waspire FTK specifically, why do we have Cannon Soldier still in Yu-Gi-Oh? It should just be gone. Why keep Waspire around? Like, that card should also be once per turn. Like, with the expend mechanic being as crucial as it is, there will be a way in the future to like abuse that card.
While I do agree that it should not be infinite, I do not think it should be once per turn. I think that there is a way that you could probably structure it to where like it holds the same spirit but is probably more balanced, whether that is limiting it to a set number of times a la Humbust, or making it to where like it's disenchant from itself as once per turn, but you can still disenchant from Ignectors any number of times. Like there are ways you can structure it to keep the same spirit, but I do agree that I don't think that it should be able to go off infinitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, even an example with Humbust. In Prototype, I believe, Humbust was infinite, and they had changed it to 4 times per turn. So, like, they've set the precedent before of changing effects to have a certain amount of activations. So I do think that if Waspire does become a problem eventually in the future, maybe they do limit it to 3 or 4 times per turn, because they do want it to activate X amount of times to get a burn effect. But I don't know.
But, like,
it's interesting.
That's not happening, though, without the card getting banned and sent to Tartarus, and then you get an escape from Tartarus later.
Yeah.
Like that's the path that we take to get to these things. So why are we delaying something that it's a problem now, it's going to be a problem in the future, and it's going to limit further design space? So, like, why not
because
just, like,
as of right now, you have to have the exact 7 cards effectively to do it. And without the deep draw of Drataya, how are you getting those 7 cards set up?
Yeah, like Waspire will never happen without Drataya right now.
I don't think that it will happen first turn without Drataya right now, but the fact of the matter is Scavacol kind of can set it up very similarly, but that does take multiple turns.
Yeah, so it turns into an OTK tool instead of an FTK tool, which is fine to a degree. But again, that's right now.
I don't know how fair that is to be like, if they print another enabler, you know, this card that is currently not a problem will become suspect, which is true for pretty much everything, right? It is a frightening card, I will say. It's a card that, like, sets off alarm bells, but, like, as long as they test with purpose, I assume that they're not gonna fuck it up twice.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, is that with Frostfall and Daybreak, they haven't been printing more insane consistency tools. Most of the consistency cards that exist in this game are from the base set, like Nectar of the Gods, Drops of Leave, Hell, Amp Up. All of those cards exist, for the most part, in base set. It's just like Cornucopia, I think, was just another thing that happened to pair well with Ash Rabbit that they did eventually, but they're not necessarily consistency tools. And now that Drataya's gone, unless they print another Pot of Greed, I don't see another deep draw deck happening for a really long time.
I just like worry about how cards like this limit future design choices. And maybe that's an unfounded worry. I'm not on the design team. I don't have those things in front of me, but I see these things creep up over and over and over. I watched somebody get Morphtronic Selfon or whatever it was, FTK'd at YCS Niagara 2022.
I think the reason that the Waspire thing doesn't really frighten me is because when you run through the steps that you had to do to execute the FTK, step 1 was draw your whole deck. Anything that enables you to draw your whole deck at some point will have to be removed from the game. That's true if there are or are not enablers. Like, people will find a way to win with a 60 card hand. There are like really powerful finishers in the game that theoretically can burn for 1 million. I think it's pretty clear there was only one card in the game that let you draw your whole deck, and it was exactly Drataya, and he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, Drataya, like I said, Drataya needed to go. There's no doubt about it. I just think that there's a conversation to be had that Waspire could have also fairly received a ban here.
It's possible. They were really quick with respect to hitting these cards. So I wouldn't be surprised if a Waspire FTK comes out, it'll be 2 days before it makes it onto the ban list.
I have a question for the three of you. What are your thoughts on you see a deck, think it's a problem, and then insta-hit it?
I may be in the minority here. I do not like it.
I agree.
No, I
agree.
fully agree. I fully agree with that, Joseph.
Because I'm not going to lie, we'll talk about, I'll bring it up right now, the heel stall stuff. It had one event, insta-hit. I don't know if I necessarily like that very much.
It's a weird position to be in for a number of reasons. Firstly, it feels bad that the creator of the game is coming out and saying, this is how we want the game to be played, and if you attempt to subvert that playstyle in any direction, then we will take immediate and swift action. That sucks. It makes me think that we're gonna shave the corners off this until it is mid-range mirrors. I like when decks are stupid and broken, but tolerable, right? And you can make an argument as to whether the Waspire FTK was so egregious that it required immediate action or not. And maybe I have a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome from Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they will literally just let a deck run rampant with a broken interaction for 6 months. But I do feel like 1 weekend of play for 2 different strategies is not enough. It's really frustrating for decks like Heal that I think need time to be explored. So far, all of the theory crafting that's gone into Heal, Stall, and its counters has been on the part of the 4 or 5 players who invented and then tried to figure out ways to beat the deck, right? Once this deck becomes a known quantity to the larger Elestrals player base, I'd like to see people making specific dedicated sideboard decisions in order to beat it. I'd like to see Heal decks themselves evolve to beat the counters, and then I'd like to see a tightening of the lists specifically, which will make a future ban list more effective. Because right now what they're trying to do is hit the very first iteration of a deck that might have natural counters. So if it could have adapted to those counters, it can adapt post-ban list. It makes the ban list less effective, and it makes the format more just reactive. And I hate both those things.
100%. I agree with everything that you said. One of the things that I think I was most frustrated with is that Heal Stall was made to deal with the 5s issue. It came out of that. So it was a solution to what everybody saw was a problem initially, which was the 5 stat line. Now we're not only punishing what was found as one of the solutions, but now people also didn't have the chance to find the counter to the solution to 5s.
I will say, I think that realistically the way we need to look at this is Daybreak became legal on September 1st. This ban list is going to take place on October 1st. That is exactly 1 month. That is too soon, in my opinion, to be making significant changes to the game. If we are looking at realistically the way probably it should be set up, because we have a 4-month period between sets, they should at least be giving us 2 months to actually properly figure out this metagame.
And they teased this online.
Changes.
He was
Yeah,
would
that-
you like
that's kind of my
cyclical,
problem.
2-month ban lists? And people were maybe 3 times a year,
Yeah, I guess my point there is I'm looking at it from, I'm using Hearthstone as an analogous for this. Hearthstone is 3 main sets a year, but they also do mid-set boosters and whatnot. But the idea there is that they'll do specifically 2 major balance changes for every set cycle. One at pretty much the exact halfway point between sets coming out, and then one in response to a set coming up for things that are too egregious. And that, for Elestrals to kind of translate that in, that would mean an adjustment list every 2 months. That way it actually gives the metagame time to breathe, time to grow. If it's something is egregious at the 2-month mark, obviously make some adjustments, but it also leaves the option of, if the metagame is actually flourishing the way it needs to, skip an adjustment. You don't have to go and immediately hit things if things are still developing naturally. And I think that that's kind of what we all agree on here, is that 1 month after Daybreak's release was definitely too soon to hit other things. Now, I do agree that maybe the FTK was too egregious of a deck to survive at this point. I guess I'm kind of jumping the gun on this a little bit. I do think that the other hits that were made on this list are a bit too soon.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about those hits?
Well, I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of pushback. Notably, what you were saying, Joseph, about wanting to sit back and let the metagame develop and let the metagame see what happens, see how people play into and around stuff and develop for the decks on hand that we deem to be problems. While I do generally agree with that sentiment, and I think that there is obvious logic in what you're saying, and as card game players, we should want the onus of deck building and format answering to be on us as players, rather than having the company and the minds behind the game steering us in the direction that they want us to go. Because I agree that there is something fun about building decks that aren't necessarily intended to be what was intended, and I think that that's a good thing, but I have to wonder if it's not an issue when decks become unfun to play against. For me personally, obviously, we all know that the FTK had to go, and Jutaya is the most sensible hit. I personally don't like the heal stall deck at all, and I understand it was built, as you said, Josh, as a direct answer to the fives deck, which was deemed a problem by a lot of players, but as a deck strategy, generally I view stall to be unfun, so I'm not upset at stall getting hit here. My question is, was stall and were fives actually hit in a meaningful sense by hitting the ancillary cards rather than the main cards themselves?
Don't beat him to the funny part. I'm sure Josh has a rant planned.
Yep, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until it comes up. I'm just gonna keep waiting.
I think that is a fine segue into, let's talk about the limits, which are, of course, Lavalith, Resting on Your Laurels, and Earthquake. Lavalith and Resting on Your Laurels are meant to be kind of catch-up cards. They're meant to be momentum cards that can swing the game back into the favor of a player that's down on spirit count on field, and Earthquake is meant to be an out. Personally, for me, I'm fine with Earthquake and Lavalith specifically. I like limiting these cards, actually, because for me personally, it makes it to where these cards are generic answers, but because of their specific fire and earth typings, it's hard to play them in a generic way when they're limited because of spirit math. I think Elestrals is really unique in that sense, but Resting on Your Laurels being already a generic one cast, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to limit that, even if you're trying to hit these cards that give the things like the fives deck big leg up because they don't establish a huge board presence to begin with.
Josh, I'm gonna go ahead and let you take it, please.
Okay.
Do your thing, King.
Okay. Well, this is gonna take an hour. I'm gonna tell you that right now because I have so much to say.
Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm ready for it. You're the Trish role.
Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you right now that there's a lot of stuff that you said that just is correct. I think that Elestrals in general, specifically with a limited section, is probably one of the most unique limited sections in any game, specifically because of the way that you have to dedicate your spirits in your spirit deck. Earthquake now feels really bad to play 2 Earth Spirits for, unless you're natively playing an Earth strategy or you're playing like Viserys alongside an Earthquake or like a Mudlet, which I think is fine. Like, that does make you have to think about your deck building in a way that makes sense. Fire still gets to play Lavalith. That's awesome. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing.
I mean, my ass is still playing Lavalith anyway.
Yeah. I know that, like, some people don't like the limited section because, like, oh, now, like, these cards are sacky. I think that they're fine. I would much rather see the 1 of Lavalith come down against me instead of, like, the 2nd or the 3rd one. Dealing with it once is fine. Lavalith, I think, is the good hit on this list. I have problems with the other 2. Lavalith was a card that really disincentivized you playing Divine Runes, and that sucks. I think a lot of people have now realized that Lavalith should have only hit a face down rune and not just a rune, because the way that Loveless was eventually played at the end of Frostfall and into Daybreak was you hit the Divine and they have to chain one of the face downs, and if they don't have a chainable back row, the Loveless goes uncontested, or if they do have a chainable that isn't exactly Gorgons, I'm outing 2 of your back row.
It's literally Caius target the set instead of the back row.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that is just something that happened to be missed with Lovelith. I think it should have only targeted a face down for it to do what I think the card was intended to do. So I think Lovelith at 1 is fine. Laurels is where I start to get a little iffy on. I think it's still like okay. I think Laurel still disincentivizes playing Divine Runes, but it didn't out the Divine. So that's where we go a little different. Laurel's outed big boss monsters, which was one of the big reasons that Laurel's kind of dealt with things like potentially now a Pharaohgeist, or the newly upcoming Draking. If it didn't connect, you could Laurels it. That one's still, it's fine. Resting to 1, I think I'm still okay with. Earthquake is the one that I think I'm the most upset with. This card should still be at 3, 100%. And I'm very terrified of the ramifications of this card being at 1. There are going to be so many unhealthy boss monsters that are not fun to play against, that are going to go unchecked, and I'm going to be really upset whenever they hit the board. Because the way that Elestrals is played right now is that there is not a good out to a 2-drop, let alone a 3-drop. Now, if a Celestlio hits the board, how in the world do I out that thing?
Well, you hit it with your 1 of Earthquake.
Yeah, so I have to see my 1 of Earthquake. Cool, they just added 4 cards to their hand. I'm not coming back.
There's a solution. You
And
check
his
in a
name is
fruit package,
Boombat.
that way you can deep draw to see the Earthquake.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
True, true.
No way, it's gone.
right.
Joseph, do you agree with me here? I hate this Earthquake limit.
I hate the Earthquake limit. I understand the impulse. They're completely right when they say, with the existing hits, sans Earthquake, it feels like Earth Nexus is in such a favorable position. I think the
I don't
answer to that
necessarily
is like,
agree.
yeah, well, okay, Earth Nexus Andy.
Well, no, I'm
think that-
saying like it's like good, but I don't think it is like the best deck.
Regardless, I think if your goal is to curb the power of Earth Nexus, there's a ton of stuff you can do. You know, you can hurt Equilinks or something. Like, that's the reason the deck feels better than like 5s, right? And I understand the impulse to hit it because a lot of what makes the heal deck, and 5s in particular, so incredible is the availability of removal spells that check any deck that tries to set up in front of them, right? But you're correct in that the things that are currently being gatekept by 3 Earthquake, 3 Laurels, and honestly, occasionally 3 Lavalith is pretty monstrous. I do think it will shake up the metagame a really crazy way. I don't think we'll be happy with the outcome. Or I think there's a possibility we aren't, you know? I think a lot of people hear, like, no Earthquake, no Laurels, and they're 1 Lavalith, and they're like, oh, like, Chronodial maybe is playable, right? Because, like, they can't Lavalith to pop the Poseidon and then Earthquake your guy super consistently. I would encourage you to read Wasp Ivy, or
Thank you.
Pharaohgeist.
Yep.
Or
Now-
I mean,
Voltempest even.
any deck that plays an Argo package and Golden Fleece or Bag of Winds now is a disaster to get rid of. You lost both your most effective way to pop the rune in Bag of Winds or the monster in Earthquake. So I think we're going to see a lot of, and the other thing that's irritating is there is an out to every one of these cards, with the exception of Pharaohgeist, and it is Shield of Achilles, right? And so in order to effectively play around Shield of Achilles, you're going to see a lot of enormous-ass bosses sitting in front of you doing nothing, which is, like, boring as shit. Like, it feels like they were like, how can we make every deck a variant of Voltempest, and will people enjoy playing that more than 5s? And I don't know. It'll be different.
Is there an argument to be made here that I personally really like 2 and 3 casts, and I wish they were played more?
That's the thing, is like those cards are fucking sick. Like, a lot of those
Yeah,
cards
I agree.
are cool to play and interact with, but because they have been built in a format where they had to account for Earthquake and Laurels, they have this innate protection that now puts them way above any sort of interactability. So I don't know. It's like a really rough position to be in. I want to cast cool 2 and 3 drop guys, but like, geez, I can't imagine just 2 big boys looking at each other, not willing to attack because of a shield. That seems like it'll suck.
I think the other problem too is that like if there is a big 2-drop on the field that's popping cards every turn, you're never getting to your 2-drop. Like there's no comeback.
Kind of looking over the limits specifically, I think we've all established at this point that Lavalith was a correct limit. Absolutely correct.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
I feel it isn't because I like destroying runes. I understand the ramifications or that no one wanted to play divines. I will say that it destroys the Monarch deck, and for that reason, I am 100% against it.
Heard.
What I'm going to
Heard and
say
felt.
here, though, is specifically targeted towards Resting and Earthquake. I see where they are trying to come from on it. They don't want 5 or even Healstall to be able to have access to quick and easy Elestral removal. But I think there's a very major difference between Resting and Earthquake. I actually think that Resting was a correct hit. I do think that having the generic 1 spirit removal spell for any deck to be able to play, I do think that that actually is correct. I do not think that Earthquake was the correct hit, and my major reason for this is specifically because of the amount of tempo that has to go into that, or not tempo, that's probably not the right word, spirit investment, that's the better word. Way most of the decks that currently operate work is that they want to be spirit efficient. You want to be able to do things for as little spirits as possible. You want to be able to build advantage with as little spirits as possible. You want to be able to remove things with as little spirits as possible. As such, as we've seen the past couple weekends, Cryoblast and Resting have become more and more popular because they are 1 spirit removals. Earthquake, out of those, always kind of felt the worst of the removals, even though it was the most usable, specifically because it takes a 2-spirit investment. But I do think that Earthquake needed to be a 2-spirit investment because of how good it is. I feel like the hit towards Earthquake was looking at it as, oh, this is the most usable of the removals, obviously we need to hit it, and not looking at it for the trade-offs that were there. I think that if they were wanting to hit a removal spell specifically because of it being a easy to use into specific, more like aggro matchups like that, I think instead of Earthquake, they might have wanted to actually look at Cryoblast, but even that I think would have been too much because Cryoblast is too new. We still haven't really seen the developments of Cryoblast's impact on the meta, which we've already been feeling a little bit with specific deck building choices that are starting to come down the pipeline since Cryoblast's big debut.
I think that actually the limit of Laurels makes Cryoblast also worse. I'll speak for Trish here. Solar's really good now. Like, Solar's very strong, and Cryoblast does almost nothing to that deck because
What
most
are
of
you
them are
talking
just
about?
defenders. What do you mean?
What is Solar going to do when I draw my Singleton Lavalith?
He's right.
I should have thought of that. I should have thought of that. Now Cryoblast does feel a million times worse because now more defensive Elestrals are going to be more viable. 5 defenders also just got a lot harder to out too. I think Astrabbit also becomes an issue again.
It feels like Earthquake specifically was targeted to make larger drop Elestrals viable into a meta that has been predominantly 1-drop dominated. While yes, I see where they're coming from on that, I do not think that hitting Earthquake was the way to go about that. By making them stronger that way, you have removed the natural check. We are going to see ramifications of that over the next month for sure.
I will say, if nothing else, I'm excited to see the ramifications in action. Like, now that Astrabbit has so few natural counters, maybe people start playing P-Gust as, like, a mechanism to contest a first-turn Astrabbit. If you're on P-Gust, maybe you play Aeolus, which is safer now that there's no Lavalith. And you can get Galaxair, target Astrabbit, Cryoblast it to death. Race to the Top is now, like, a premier removal spell in the format. We get into Stadium Wars again, and Stadium Wars matter because there are going to be a bunch of Nexus decks that want the bank now that they aren't going to get just chewed out by Laurels. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff that could happen. I'm just scared that maybe the unfun stuff will happen more than the fun stuff.
Josh, you seem like you're dying to say something on that one specifically.
I mean, do we want to talk about how Heal didn't get touched?
Well, that's where I was going to go, is moving into the actual ramifications of this list, how does this impact things like heal and 5 specifically? Because outside of the FTK, we all targeted those as problematic decks that we wanted to address, whether that be through metagame development or through a list of some sort. Somehow, like, do we feel like these have been addressed? I mean, in the video, that was clearly outlined as the goal of these hits, to address those decks.
Can I throw a sentence in here quick? I think that 100% their head is in the right place in that video when they say that the reason that heal and 5s are so dominant is because of the availability of like undercosted removal spells, right? Cards like Laurels play into how 5s plays, right? But in a world without those removal spells, counterintuitively, I think 5s maybe even gets better, because if the best removal you can have is like combat, 5s is the deck that most effectively wins combat, right?
If the banned cards are in Tartarus, where are the limited cards?
Fartarus.
No, they're in the. No, I guess that's Egyptian mythology. Wait a minute, I was about
Just
to say
like the
field
general
of
Egyptians
underworld.
have Fartarus? I'm looking at it right now.
No, it's the Fields of Asmodeus. That's what I'm thinking.
Ooh, that's
of.
nice. I'm like scanning
that is
Jewish Apocrypha. I'm like, fucking hell.
I'm fairly certain I have that name right. Is that Fields of Asmodeus?
Asmodeus is how normal people say it. But
No,
other
it's
than
the
that, yeah.
Fields of Asphodel. My bad.
Yes, with the merchant. Oh my God, where my 2014 Magic the Gathering mono black players at?
My mistake. I'm getting my A's mixed up when it comes to the mythology of underworlds.
Listen, we've all mixed up an A every now and then. It's okay.
Talk about
Metagame
heal, you fucker.
ramifications.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
off, Josh. You have the floor.
Okay.
You built it. You discuss it.
So I am currently looking up on my other screen at a list that will probably go up on the Knots channel that has 20 removals in it. Still.
What removal spells are you playing? Cryoblast, the two
Okay.
that are still legal.
Yep.
Does this
Resting.
count things like shield?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
One
counting.
resting, one
You're
EQ.
counting counter runes.
They're removal spells.
No, I mean no one's going to attack into them.
They don't have to.
Yeah, I guess that kind of accomplishes your goal anyway, right? And heal.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, there were other removal cards that you could have played just in very specific
Here's
decks.
what we do. We play a Thunder Wind hybrid deck that centers around Nexusing Spirits to P-Gust and Boombat.
All I'm saying is that if Quackle's a 4, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
so okay. I will be completely honest. The Boombat non-hit is the funniest part of this. They're like, okay, we want to stop like the availability of cheap removal spells and encourage people to Nexus, but we're not going to think of the ramifications of everybody Nexusing with Dryden in the format. Like, I wonder if maybe a deck can take advantage of repeatable Boombats, or maybe 4 or 5 decks.
Dryden can come back. I've been saying this.
I guess.
All I'm saying is that Race to Top is a pretty good removal spell.
That's what
So,
I'm saying.
Yeah, it kind of loops back to the same point that we said previously, is that one cost removal spells are a premium, and the fact of the matter is Race is one that was heavily unexplored prior to this ban list, that we probably should have delayed the ban list until we have actually explored this.
That's to say, Race to
It
the
was
Top
in
was like the
every
best
Thunder
deck.
game.
Well,
Yeah.
it was the
The
best
main
deck in
card.
Frostfall. I'm
Yeah,
saying it's
until Spark
People
got
were
banned in
playing Jolten, Elichik, Astrabbit, and everything just to access Race to the Top.
It was so good. Unbelievable.
And it remains good. It's still insane. But
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to justify when resting is always live.
Exactly.
But isn't that the point of this? Is to like make other things like that is a dedicated deck building decision to put a large package of like close to a dozen cards in to make that work.
It's worth it.
To a
All those
degree,
cards are
yes,
independently
but
good.
Also,
Yeah, I mean, they're all Thunder, so Quackle's broken.
and you're already gonna be playing
Like-
Thunders because of Astrabbit anyway, so
And Boombat,
yeah, and Boombat. Fair
So what you're
point.
saying is that Quackle's a 5?
sometimes. I mean, it
Amount
gets to a
is
4.
pretty-
It's
pretty
a 4 pretty
infrequently.
consistently. Yeah, it's a
I
4.
think what's way more important about the Mount Olympus is it makes it to where the heal deck no longer has any real weakness. Well, it already kind of had no real weakness to it, but it plays even better into Cryoblast now.
My earlier conversations with somebody, I said this was my biggest concern. I do not think that if they were attempting to address heal, which I think that heal should have been addressed. I know that that's not necessarily something we all agree on.
Should have hit Quackle.
I mean, I say just limit all of the receive to heal guys.
That's not even a receiver.
Well, just whatever, anybody that just heals, just like all those one-cost heal guys that the list was playing, just limit all of them, which is excessive and goes against the entire theory of like letting the format play out. But I don't think the heal deck is fun to play against, so I'm fine with it.
Controversial opinion coming out of me. I really don't think that any element aside from specifically water should have
I agree.
An over and abundance of access to healing. I think that in the long term, we're talking Quackle is going to be a problem. I do think that as things like Nemisail is probably the most balanced of them because it doesn't
Nemisail's
have a
the
mechanic
worst.
that. Yeah, Nemisail is the worst of them. Catarant for Frost because you have all the recursion already built in. I do think that naturally giving elements the ability to heal excessively is a problem unless the element is specifically designed around it, and water is specifically designed around the idea of healing excessively.
I think like Earth is maybe okay to have like a single heal guy. Like I don't think it's like totally out of theme.
I don't know. I'm kind of a different opinion. I think like healing specifically in a game where, again, life is your resource, every spirit should have some type of access to a heal. The problem is they're
Ambrosia.
so generic that like they're just playable in everything. I think Dratogla itself is so good, not because of the fact that it's a receiver. I mean, arguably in the heal deck, it is the worst healer. But the 4 stat line on its defense matters a lot.
That 4 defense is massive.
Everything else is a 3-1 that's a receiver. I mean, Sluggle and Eddie are small for a reason. They're not supposed to heal and be a beater. So, I don't know. I think that every spirit should have a healer, but I don't even know how you address something like this.
It's a problem that we're probably going to see come up more and more as other elements get healers as well. Like currently we are looking at it to where reliable healer wise, there are only 4 elements, 5 because Solar has their version of Drataya or whatever it's called. I guess my point there being though is that we're going to probably see the ramifications of that as more and more elements get healers.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to let the format play out and see what happens, right? Because at this point, that's all we can do. I want to say that this addresses the issues that people had with the format, but I just don't think it does. I like the Earthquake limit. Believe it or not, I do. I like the Lavalith limit a lot. I don't like resting at all, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think the one thing, too, that I really wish would have happened with this list, obviously, like, we all agree Drataya should have been taken out back. I really wish that they would have waited until October 1st to see if Dracking would have done anything.
I agree.
Like,
Absolutely
we get new
agree.
cards. I mean, as
I
of
think-
today, like,
Yeah.
would they have done something?
I will say, I think that kind of loops back to my previous point about how they should have structured this ban list, is that go ahead and do the Drataya ban now because that is necessary, but save the limits for November 1st. Make it the exact 2-month point after Daybreak comes out. Let the meta develop naturally the way it needs to before you start making adjustments. Because the 2-month point would be the exact halfway point between sets. That's why
yeah.
I'm focusing on that.
We got 2 months from Spark It to now.
I'm trying to think. How long did it take Spark It to get hit from
2.5 years.
Well, from
Oh.
but from from the release of Frostfall, because that's when like Race to the Top was released in like
2 months. It was
it
2
was
months.
2 months. How many tournaments though?
Here,
That's-
give me a-
There
that's
were,
the
I
thing
think it
that
was.
I'm
I think it was
curious
2
about.
apps
It was
and 1
2, right?
paper.
I think that that's also something to be discussed here, right? Like, there's not a huge amount of tournaments to build this data set off of, right? Like, this is a big part of Master Duel does ban lists every like 6 weeks or something like that, and they base a lot of it off of in-game data that they have because it's a video game, right? Which we don't have that for these because realistically the data sets for these are just not very large. We have a handful of app tourneys. We have a handful of the webcam tourneys. I mean, I guess you could include casual nights, but that is by definition casual, so it's not really like something you build a data set off of. So I wonder at what point are we like, oh yes, we have enough data to hit all of these cards.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think Part of that is just we don't have a whole lot of data sets. Most games in their infancy don't have a whole lot of data sets when it comes to what hits need to be made immediately. It's just part of how a game develops. But I still think that we did need more time for this metagame to develop before we made any kind of significant changes.
I guess the one thing we didn't talk about either is, like, was fives addressed?
Not realistically.
No.
Well, okay. I will go to bat for this. I did just say that in a world where all the removal spells are gone, fives is really good, right? I might actually be talking out of my ass. I think that a weakness of fives that has really never been explored is kind of the fact that it's not super adaptable against decks that put up, like, a Wasp Ivy with Bag of Winds or stupid shit like that. There's a lot of scenarios where fives just can't assemble any sort of win condition into a resolved, like, Chronodial or Celeste Leo or anything like that. And the fact that this makes those scenarios more likely to occur probably sucks for fives. So I don't know. I think it will have a weirder time in the metagame. And unlike previously, where it just felt like efficient with a capital E, it will have clear strengths and weaknesses.
I think that that's a fair point. I mean, what does fives do to out a single Verdolith in defense? We don't know.
I think, though, that's more interesting is that between specifically Frostfall and Daybreak, there is only a 3-month period, whereas now they are shooting for a 4-month period.
There was a whole discussion about Twitter on this because, Dan went on Twitter and made a post asking how people felt about different ban list types.
Dan, you gotta stop posting. Dan, this is my impassioned plea to you, Dan. Stop searching the word Elestrals on twitter.com and replying to people. Please! For your own safety and sanity. Please!
I'll push back. I think it's funny. But regardless,
every time I see,
I
like,
don't think it's right.
Every time I see someone whose name is like the Conscious Curator, and they have like a stone statue Avi, and they're like, I tried Elestrials, a little pedestrian for me, and they have like 1 like and a dude in their mentions who's like, that's a Jewish game. Who is the other reply on that thread but A-Drive being like, sorry to hear you had a bad experience. Perhaps I could send you a creator box to change your mind.
Please, we're not talking about that right now.
I'll say I'm waiting for the Dan post that just says, coming up with a new card to really curb all that special casting that's happening. Wait, no.
10 years later, it gets the retweet. You've all seen this Kevin Tewart tweet? He's got, 4 total tweets, and one of them is, I'm in the tank developing Maxi. It's so good.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of, like, letting formats play out, but I'm also a big fan of just, like, hitting stuff that people don't like. But at the same time, it's like so much of this at this point, like I said, it's not really based off of a, like, hard and defined data set. It's really just, like, vibes based, which normally I'm a big fan of doing things, like, in a vibes based kind of way. We'll see if this is the correct pathway that the Forbidden Limited needs to take. I'm just wondering what the first semi-limited card is. What do we think?
I think the semi-limited list is that is a poison that you do not need to mess with.
Counterpoint, I love the semi-limited list. I love hitting consistency by 10%. So let's talk about the newest. I'm not kidding. I love it. So let's talk about some of the newer announcements that got made like a week ago, I guess now at this point. We have not only a ban list, Shattered Stars Month 8 is now legal. So this is going to include things like Artemis, notably. Draking will be notable, I believe. And is there anything else that's like major here that should be discussed?
I mean, Drakid is pretty good.
I would actually Drakid definitely.
And then we have also Nobby and Fawnlit. I don't think those have a home quite yet.
Nobby's pretty good.
Nobby is probably worth experimenting with, but yes, Fawnlit definitely we're going to need to see more out of Moonrise.
Is Nobby just the answer to fives?
I think Eddie's better.
We also got the reveals for Shattered Stars Month 9, which is the Celebration Shattered Stars Month. From what Dan was saying, this is going to be just kind of like a break from the normal method. It's sounding to me like it's going to be our Megatins, basically, to be determined, I guess, by the player base. We know that they're expanding it from 7 cards per pack to 8 cards per pack, and that will include 1 of 8 spirits. So, like, instead of every spirit gets a full art, every spirit is getting its own alt art in the pack.
I am going to get up on my soapbox really fast and talk about why I hate Shattered Stars Month 9 right now. One of the main draws of Shattered Stars was the foil chases. It is awesome that you can get just a single bundle, a 3-pack, and have a full playset of all of the commons. That is an incredible thing. I feel like that is also partially destroyed by the fact that they are now focusing on doing 8 different spirit types in the common slot, but that I can live with. That is something completely separate. I can live with that. What I cannot live with is the fact that of the, I think, 6 foils that are going to be in the set, 4 of them are Circle the Sky. That
What's the
pisses
problem?
me off.
Don't you want to circle the sky?
The main reason I bought so many bundles of specifically Shattered Stars Month 8 is because I loved the idea of actually chasing all of these foils. The 5 foils that they showed for that were incredible. And I do think that there's legitimate merit in going in on a set like that, even still chasing the Stellars. Like, I got lucky and got the Stellar Drakings, or the reverse Stellar Drakings, but I do think that even if I didn't pull those, there's still merit to getting that many, specifically to go after those foils, to make sure you have a full set. This is the first Shattered Stars set where I do not feel any incentive to buy more than just a single bundle of it, and that is because the foil chases for this feel awful. The fact that they put 4 of the 6 chases as the same card just with different arts, that feels demoralizing. I want to be able to get unique things here. I want to be able to get different cards that are all playable, by the way. Not even talking about the fact that Circle the Sky is just not really that great of a card right now. I do not want to go and buy a bunch of bundles of this and only be opening Circle the Sky the whole day. That is going to feel just... I will hop off. I will hop off. Let someone else yap, please.
I'm just going to jump in just to give us the commons really quick before we get too deep into the sauce here. The commons for this are the Halloween Necruff, the Halloween Blazerus. There is also a Twindra, Pulsar, and Neblio, and that is 5. Oh, and Gloombat.
We'll get into Gloombat in a little bit, because I actually do think Gloombat looks pretty cool. The foils specifically are, I believe it's Halloween Blazerus, Circle the Sky, Circle the Sky, Circle the Sky, Circle the Sky, and Posthumous, who's a new card as well. Of those, I really think that the only one of interest is Posthumous, and I just don't think that that's going to sell a set.
I think they should put in a 5th Circle the Sky.
Do you want to know a fun fact? This is the 14th printing of Circle the Sky.
When the sky is circle... no, it's not. You are fucking with me.
So you have base set, all 5 of the initial structure decks. So that's 6. You have the Circle the Sky promo from Kickstarter. You have the Cryoscorch starter deck, the Frostfall art. You have the Daybreak art, and now the 4 printings in this one. We are now up to 14.
Yeah.
I count this as one.
No.
There are 4 separate
No,
prints.
they are 4 different arts.
Yeah.
They are 4 different printings.
Helios' Chariot Ride is also one of the hollows.
Oh,
I think that's really
And
cool.
Poison
I
Nectar.
I like foil Chariot Ride.
Yeah, Chariot Ride and
Poison-
Nectar
okay.
are also
okay, my
hollows.
mistake. There are 8 cards here. I do like those. I do think that those are awesome. Those actually fill the same spirit as the previous Shattered Stars sets. That's cool. Still irks me, though, that we are looking at 4 arts of Circle the Sky in the foil spots.
I think Circle the Sky is a wildly underexplored card that has a lot of potential. I think that the better way to do this would have been to pick 6 or 7 cards for that hollow slot besides Circle the Sky, and then just make the pack and another extra card deeper. It's the celebration event. Like, you can put 2 cards instead of 1 extra card, and then just have a second hollow slot that you get one of the 4 Circle the Sky full arts.
Yeah.
So you're saying do 5 hollows like all the other Shattered Stars have been, and then add in an additional hollow slot that is one of the 4 arts of
Correct.
Circle the Sky?
Yes.
That I actually would have been a fan of. That
would
actually
be cool.
sounds like it would have been the way to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't fault the team. As much as people are upset about this, and I get why, you're not going to hit a home run literally every time you put out a product. It's clear that Circle the Sky is an entire theme that they're doing. I'm fine with that. I get it. It is watering down the hollow pool for your full art hollow slot. For me, I'm fine with it. Realistically, you're not watering it down to like an excessive degree, in my opinion. It's 1 month. Like,
I have one more grievance with this.
Oh no.
I swear, this will be my last thing, and I'll hop
go for
off
it.
Circle the Sky. And this is a super nitpicky thing, and I'm pretty sure you guys probably know what I'm about to say. The fact that there are 4 arts of Circle the Sky,
Yeah.
but you can only play 3 copies in a day.
Yeah.
That bothers
Actually,
me.
there's 8 parts. The point is, there's
And-
always like, everyone's got those 2 spirits that they just hate.
I really do feel like they could have done a Circle the Sky singular full art that has all 8 of the spirits like
That's what I don't
interacting
get.
with each other.
That would have been
Like,
the best. Like,
I think that would have been the coolest way to do it.
it's all right. It's coming.
But I'll back off.
I think
yeah.
the rest of the Shattered Source pack is great. Like, I love the Halloween
Oh, the-
Trifernal. Like, I think that's really neat.
I have a different, like, biggest complaint, and this is now 2 months in a row that they've put, like, a potentially meta impactful card as a Shattered Stars exclusive. I'm fine to a degree, especially, like, Gloombat's, it's a common, it's guaranteed. Sure, I guess, that's fine. But why are we putting potentially meta impactful cards first release, like Artemis, Gloombat, maybe even Posthumous? Why are we putting this in the subscriber only like exclusive thing that everybody gets on the first of the month and it's not legal for an entire month? Like,
Okay.
I
Thank you for
actually
saying
have-
that. It's fucked
Okay, go on,
up.
Joseph.
No, I
okay,
agree.
that's my biggest issue with this.
I will say yes and no on that. There are issues with it, which we will get into, but I don't see a problem with printing cards for the first time in Shattered Stars in the common slot. Because the common slots are guaranteed, you can get a single bundle of Shattered Stars and you are guaranteed to get all of those new cards. Like, for example, for month 8, you can get one bundle and you get a full set of Drakid, a full set of Draking, a full set of Nabi, and a full set of Fondlet. That is actually, I think, fine. What bothers me is specifically Artemis. Artemis for month 8 is exclusively in the foil slot, meaning that you are not guaranteed it out of the 3-pack bundle. That is where I actually think that there is an issue, is making her exclusive to that. Even though I personally don't think Artemis is that good right now, I do have a very serious problem with this specific practice. Even though Artemis is probably not the greatest, and Posthumous in month 9 has the exact same issue, even though I don't think that's going to be the greatest out the gate, it still sets a very uncomfortable precedent.
I'll go to bat in like a devil's advocate sense. I believe that to a degree it's okay. Like, I'm perfectly fine with them putting guaranteed common cards as exclusives. I don't think that's an issue at all, like at all. But I do think things like Artemis and Posthumous, those have the potential to be problematic in a way that is worrying. But, and here's where the benefit of the doubt comes in of, I believe that this is a good company that generally wants the best for its players. I don't believe that this will be a thing that they put extremely highly meta impactful cards that are going to be immediately broken into these sets. Personally, I think that it's fine to do Artemis this is one time. Yes, it establishes a scary precedent, but I think that there's something to be said for, they had a theme. They had we're going to do 1 month of each typing, and I don't think they wanted to split up the Lunar, Shattered Stars, and Moonrise by like 4 months. I don't think that was intentional. We know that it wasn't, but I think that this was intended to be a little, and it takes place, it's effective October 1st. So it would have been 1 month. So I think if you're looking at like a 1 month window just to like keep the sake of the pattern going for this one time, it's fine. But Posthumous to me is like, okay, we're going to do this frequently. That is what is more worrying to me. I didn't say anything about it for Artemis, but this,
I think my biggest irk with this is the fact that Shattered Stars packs are never going to be available at OTSs. I think that is kind of my biggest gripe with this, is that it is exclusive to the website, which I do get. I do think that having something exclusive to the Elestral site is fine, but the fact that the foil card is exclusively a foil in a set that is only available through the website and not through your local stores, that is kind of where it rubs me the wrong way.
Artemis is a mail order divine. That's crazy.
I think another bigger issue of that too is like if you go to your LGS consistently, where would you ever even hear about Shattered Stars to know to be able to get these cards? Like, is it something that is actively being advertised by stores to go somewhere else to buy cards? And I don't think that that's the case. So unless you have someone at your locals that has those cards and they ask, where did you get those? You're kind of out of luck, right?
I think that right now the availability of Shattered Stars is being kept alive by the fact that at every local there's one asshole who's bought 99 Shattered Stars and will dole them out like candy. Like you just gotta find the person who's like, I bought 1 billion Shattered Stars, and the whole store's got to be like, okay, we all want to play Drak King next week. What can you give me? And they'll just hand them to you.
Is it ethical and like is it against the like terms and conditions of a store signing up? Is a store just allowed to like buy 99 bundles as a store every month and just sell them in store for like
That's
just
a
like
great
15
question.
bucks?
I have no idea.
I'm fairly certain that Shattered Stars has a thing on it specifically not for resale.
Oh, boo.
But I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me on that.
That is something that they should make a Shattered Star subscriber or OTS exclusive.
Okay, can we talk about Drak King now?
Yeah, so let's talk about these
Yeah.
are the cards that are legal in Shattered Stars month 8. So Drak King is the big guy on the block. If you want a full art version of this, or if you want to see the full art Stellar version, go to Caleb's Twitter. He pulled one. Amazing. Kind of Goyo with extra text.
It's
Yeah,
better than Goyo.
It's way better than Goyo.
It's Goyo with more effect.
What if Goyo came
Well,
out in 2003 and was
Yeah.
better than Goyo?
It was
I don't
so
know.
Is
much
there
I-
just
better.
one tribute monster that's actually just Goyo?
It's like
No,
what
I
if
don't
Summoned
think so.
Skull was Goyo?
Yeah. I don't know how you all are feeling on this card. I think it's quite good. A Rock in a Hard Place, already really powerful. Eddie, already really powerful. Doesn't take a genius to figure out where this is going.
Directly contradictory to what you said on the last episode of Rock and a Hard Place being bad.
Yeah, well, last episode there was removal available, and now there's not. So we can afford to be a little less choosy, I think. I like the card a great deal.
I think that the card is good enough that, not to go back to like ban list stuff, but I think it's good enough that it would have shaken up the meta pre-removal stuff. And now
You think
that,
so?
yeah, I think that it could have been one of the checks to 5s.
Oh, but 5s surely would have played this.
I actually don't know.
Could it? Like,
I really don't
realistically?
know.
I mean, we'll never know now.
True. Well, maybe
as
5s
good as
is
Goyo
just tracking
is.
now.
As good as
Um,
Goyo is like actually like splashable in literally everything in Edison. This is not like eminently splashable, right?
Oh,
It might be in specifically water decks, water-focused decks.
Or water 5s.
Yeah, or water. Yeah, well, any
Wet
deck that
fives would
plays
love
significant
this.
amounts of waters.
Yeah.
Like I will say right now, a Small Tuga. You play Small Tuga to search for one of your Fire 5s. Next turn, you ascend your Small Tuga up into Drak King. That actually kind of sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Because Small Tuga ain't going anywhere. It's a 5 defense body there that it does not feel good to remove because it's just going to sit there otherwise. The fact that you can convert that now into something that actually gains you active advantage seems really good to me.
I'm right now. I did it on Twitter earlier. I'll do it again right now. I'm advocating for a Small Tuga full art stellar. Dan, I know you're listening. I know you are. I'm saying it.
do we not
this
have
is
a
what the
Small
people
Tuga
want.
Stellar?
We do.
No, we do.
We do.
have a Small
We have a
Tuga
stellar. I want a full art X out
Oh,
of 10
you're greedy.
stellar.
You're greedy.
Yeah, I won't ever own one, but I want it to exist.
What if the full art Stellar Small Tuga is named Big Tuga?
I'm down. Make that one of the promos for the Kickstarter with the Krakatuga.
Yeah, the Krakatuga Stellar is a promo for the Clash.
Oh, dude, we
Kickstarter.
haven't even
very-
talked about.
Oh,
Clash.
Oh my
God.
gosh! Wait a minute.
Wait.
We
How
forgot.
did we miss
We've been
Clash?
complaining this whole time. There are so many good things to talk about.
Wait, move this to the beginning of the podcast. What are we doing? This is what everyone's here for. This is going to be the actual thumbnail. No, it's the ban list will be the thumbnail. But like,
Yeah,
come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
This is huge. So somehow we totally missed the announcement of Elestrals Clash because at this point it happened like 2 weeks ago. But there has been an official Kickstarter announced for Elestrals Clash. Elestrals Clash will be the official Elestrals simulator available on both mobile and PC, cross-platform, all of that, and is being developed by the team that made Pixel Pixelborn, which was the Lorcana simulator that got shut down by Disney. What more can you say? I mean, this is just the biggest slam dunk W that Elestrals has ever had outside
Meanwhile,
of
I'm
banning
over here in
Drataya.
shambles.
Oh, dude, listen. Wait, who is in shambles?
I'm in shambles. It's not like I've been over here
Oh.
developing a simulator for us to be using for testing for quite some time. At
You've
this
got-
point.
Happily
got
accept that it's a thing
several
off your
months.
plate. No, he doesn't have several months. No. The Kickstarter goes live in October, and the alpha and beta will be available in November to December.
They say that, but I don't know. I think we gotta temper our expectations for this.
Anything
They-
short of Master Elestrals, I'm out. Okay?
Yeah,
Anything
exactly,
short of that is
exactly.
a failure.
No, if they keep to their existing timetable, I will be shocked. They were like, yeah, it's coming out Q1 2025 after a month of dev. And they're like, well, we already started dev. I don't buy it because he posted about like contracts like 3 weeks ago. What, they were just working without a contract for 6 months behind everyone's back? Like, what's going on?
Okay, I'm gonna sound kind of sus on this. Judging by the initial promo images that they have been showing through Kickstarter, and judging by kind of like the timetable that they're setting out, it is pretty clear to me that Elestrals Clash is at the very least going to be utilizing the system that the Pixelborn team had already put in place for specifically
Yeah.
Lorcana.
They already had the
And
platform.
as
carbon
someone
copy.
who played Pixelborn for the first set of Lorcana, their system is actually pretty well developed. It gives me, just the UI
So-
for it gives me very much Legends of Runeterra vibes.
So the
which
dev
I
cycle is
personally
just
love.
reskinning the old client.
Yeah, and I guess
Now I believe it
here's
could
the-
happen.
Is that a terrible thing, though?
No, it's
It
great.
is.
It'll
Yeah,
get
it's
done
great.
in a
Okay.
week. I'm super excited.
I will say, it looks to me that the way the Kickstarter is being used is basically as a way for the Elestrals team to properly pay the Pixelborn team for the work that they have done. And quite frankly, I do think that that is a good way to go about it, is to make sure that the dev teams can actually make a livable wage off of the work that they have put into this. This game has been well over a year of development at this point, and it's the fact that Disney came in and basically not really stole their lunch money, because they were obviously always working with borrowed time when it came to Disney, but basically made the development process that they had already put in kind of null and void at that point. I am glad to see that they are still going to be able to get something out of the many days that they have clearly put into it. As someone who actually is in the software development field, yes, you are correct. The timetable makes no sense if this was being built from scratch. It is very clearly not being built from scratch. It is very clearly using the system that already exists, and I am glad that this is going to be used as a way to actually pay the developers for their hard work and effort.
This is a project that the Elestrals team has said they put the first half of the funding into up front, which is, I mean, if we're getting the second half, then the first half would have been $250,000, and the second half they are going to Kickstarter for. We'll put a link to the Kickstarter below. Obviously, like, this is all
Goes
something
live
we
October
want.
15th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So of course, obviously, go follow the Elestrals Clash Kickstarter page. So for the Kickstarter itself, there's going to be promos, in-game and physical promos mailed out. One of the physical promos we know is a promo Stellar Krakatuga. We don't know any others.
What's
as
up,
of
my
this-
Krakatugas?
Yeah.
What's up, my
As of
Krakatugas?
recording, we don't have any more. But for sure, go and follow it. The goal, like I said, is $250,000. And if you fund it to a certain degree, there will be some amount of alpha and beta access allowed to Kickstarter backers. Like I said, to a degree. We don't know the tiers yet or anything like that. We're expecting, like Joseph said, the full official release to be Q1 of next year, which is extremely fast. From what Dan was saying, again, on his... You gotta follow him on Twitter. Like, you gotta.
It's okay. He'll follow you if you talk.
That is
start
true.
talking
If you make a
Elestrals.
single post saying, I like Elestrals, you will get a follow. So, notably, this, according to him, will be completely free to play in the same sense that, like, EDO Pro or Dueling Book is. I mean, we're talking all the way free to play.
I think it's
you have
literally
access to
the
every card.
Omega monetization model, where like The cards are free, but you can get like rarity upgrades and fun stuff by paying money, and there's like a battle pass.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and quite frankly, that's how, if I'm not mistaken, that's how originally Pixelborn was going to be set up if Disney didn't strike it into the ground.
Right. I would imagine with the Pixelborn team being like essentially a fan team doing this, I'm not going to be surprised at all if that was like part of their conditions of making this game, is that they want it to be for players. That would have been something the Elestrals team would have wanted anyway, because to be honest, the Elestrals team is without a doubt the most active TCG company I've ever seen in doing things for the players for the betterment of the game through the
It's
players.
incredible.
Just how, I mean, none of us have ever seen a TCG do things with the players in mind like Elestrals has. It's never happened. It's
I don't
because
think
it's
we've
by
actually
the
sung
players.
enough of those praises. Is that the Elestrals team is absolutely community first, and
Oh, yeah.
that cannot be understated.
Did you see the Drataya plushie that like did y'all see that? Okay.
That's so
Yes,
sad.
I did. Perfect timing.
Yeah. So I mean, I still want it personally. I do.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, do not mass produce those Drataya plushies. Make like 40 of them and put them only in the creator boxes.
Yeah.
No, you make 99 of them, and every time someone orders a plushie off the Elestral site, you have a chance of getting a stellar plushie.
No. Specifically make 99 of these stellar Drataya plushies. Just that one.
There.
You should they should make 5 of them. And those 5 will all be given to 5 random subscribers of the Wirtz YouTube channel.
True. Go subscribe to Wirtz for a chance at a random stellar Drataya plushie.
I like his
Go
crocheted
subscribe
one.
to
I
Wirtz. He
think
could
it's
use
so
all the
cute.
support he could get right now. Both between the Drataya ban and we have officially passed him. He has rebranded himself as the 3 3/4 biggest Elestral YouTuber because he specifically refuses to count MBT twice.
That's
Channel
fair.
3 3/4.
I was going to say the 3 that are ahead of him are what? This channel, the Knots channel where I uploaded once or twice, and mine. I feel kind of bad for him. Wirtz, if you want to start a blood vendetta against me, that's okay.
Just do a guest upload on his channel.
Ooh, that would be so funny. Wait, I should do that. That would be hilarious.
Wirtz, hit us up.
That's true. We just have Wirtz on the podcast. Like we can like promo smaller creators. That's a thing we can do.
Oh, come on. Oh, you're
that was
hurting him.
really mean. I'm sorry. That Wirtz is out here taking shots for no reason, catching strays. We
Look,
love
it's
you,
already
Wirtz.
Wirtz's worst day ever. First he got passed, and then he got his pet. banned.
No. This is a week after his worst day ever. We're just making him relive it.
Worst day ever so far.
A completely free-to-play simulator. This is gonna do like insane wonders for growing the player base. That and the eventual potential, maybe we'll see it one day before we die. TCG Player Edition. I don't know. One day, the TCG Player Edition and a digital simulator are the 2 things that can grow this game faster than literally anything else. We're halfway there.
The amount of excuses that people have to not play Elestrals goes away day by day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is going to wrap it up for tonight's recording and for this episode. Fellas, do you have any specific things you want to say or shout out before we go?
Sub to Wirtz.
True.
Sub to Wirtz.
Sub to Wirtz.
And Bean Soldier, do you want to go ahead and shout out your
No. We're trying to
Have
catch
you
up.
guys heard of the Elestronauts?
I am Bean Soldier from the Elestronauts. It's myself, Disencoder, Swolex, and Caleb.exe. We do a lot of competitive content, a lot of deck profiles, a lot of tier lists. I know we've had multiple people from CASTER'S Corner on the channel before. We've had Trish and MBT as well. Hopefully we'll get the other 2 of you on the channel at some point as well.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
We'll
My
see.
accessibility is limited.
Collusion. But
Oh, I have no shame. My accessibility is wide open.
But if you are interested in extremely competitive content, sub to us. We just also released the FTK video. So if you wanted to see why Drataya was banned, if you're unaware, go ahead and check out that video and all the good stuff. And if you want to see heal stuff.
Well, gentlemen, thank you all for knocking out 2 hours of your evening to talk about everything except CASTER'S, except Elestrals Clash for the most part. I appreciate that. Thank
Oh
you,
my
everybody, for...
You guys are going to hate me. I was not recording.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I am. See you next time, everybody.